What methods can be applied for effective Bible study? Read all the related verses when studying a certain topic or person. This will enable you to get an understanding of a certain aspect as a whole and of its subsections. Use a Bible concordance, word index, to find it, while ensuring that you also search for words of the same meaning, synonyms. If you study the topic of love, for example, you must also search for the word charity, since it means the same, as is the case in 1 Corinthians 13. When studying the topic of righteousness, you also need to search for words with the same meaning, such as just and upright. You should also use your concordance or Bible dictionary when studying the life of a certain person in the Bible, e.g., Simon Peter. Reading the many verses regarding him will give you a good picture of his person or character, but doing so only partially will result in your getting a vague, incomplete, or incorrect picture of him. Whether it be the life of Peter, Jesus, or any other Bible character, your careful study will enable you to detect any errors taught about the person. Study the passages concerning Jesus, as Jesus Christ, the Son of God, is central to the teachings of the Bible. You must never neglect to study the life of Jesus. You must come to an awareness of who and what Jesus is and who and what Jesus is not. He is the Son of God and the Messiah. He is not the reincarnation of a certain Old Testament prophet, nor is he a great master of wisdom. Coming to a correct understanding of Jesus has become critical, as false teachings regarding him abound in the present day, and are spread far and wide. If you believe what is false regarding him, your overall understanding of the Bible will be erroneous. When considering the veracity of something, it is useful to reason that, if is true, then. This will assist you in getting to the actual truth. You may then consider that, if the false Jesus is real, then. Such contemplation will indeed lead you to the conclusion that the false Jesus is not the real Jesus. If the Jesus preached to you does not correspond to the Jesus in the Bible, then that Jesus preached to you is not the Jesus of the Bible. In other words, how can that person be the Jesus of the Bible, if he does not correspond to the Jesus of the Bible? If the Jesus presented to you is not the Christ, then it is not the same Jesus. A different Jesus is being proclaimed. The Bible knows nothing of a non-healing, non-suffering, and non-saving Jesus. If people present you with a different Jesus, it is a false Christ they are pointing you to. Matthew chapter 24 verse 5. Jesus himself warned against this. One therefore even needs to ask the question, which Jesus is the Christ? The Jesus of the Bible is not a Christ. He is the Christ. This means that Jesus did not merely have a Christ spirit, as some people claim. If Jesus was not the Messiah, his death by crucifixion and his resurrection would not have been disputed, as is commonly the case today. There is only one true Messiah of God. If the Jesus proclaimed was not born of a virgin, then he is not the real Jesus. If he was never resurrected from the dead, then he is not the real Jesus. It is the risen Jesus who is the Christ. If just one of the characteristics of Jesus described in the Bible is missing, it is a false Jesus being presented. Moreover, how could Jesus have had a divine birth but not a divine life and a divine death? The same Jesus of Calvary is the same Jesus of Nazareth, who is the same Jesus of Bethlehem. He is not Jesus of Cana or Jesus of Jericho. Otherwise stated, the returning Jesus is the ascended Jesus, who is the resurrected Jesus, who is the crucified Jesus, who is the suffering Jesus, who is the sinless Jesus. You will thus not be part of those who believe that Jesus has already returned to this world and was reincarnated in the form of a certain person. If you have read Acts 1 verse 11 and 1 Thessalonians 4 verses 16 and 17, you will immediately recognize that if the person did not descend from heaven with the clouds, it is not the same Jesus as described in the Bible. It is another Jesus. The same Jesus will not return in another manner. The Jesus who will come in the clouds will not be a different Jesus. How can it be the same Jesus, if he did not return to earth on the clouds? How can it be the same Jesus if he died again following his so-called return to earth? Revelation chapter 1 verse 18. Reading all the verses regarding the life of Jesus will also convince you that no one else matched the characteristics of the Messiah as foretold in the Old Testament scriptures, other than the Jesus of the Bible. There is no John Christ, Elijah Christ, or whatever the name of the person is that people would think to be the Christ, but only Jesus Christ, or Christ Jesus. Jesus is not simply a messianic figure. If you share these with unsaved Jewish people, it is not wrong to then challenge them by asking, "How much longer do you still want to wait for the Messiah?" Many people have been referred to as messiahs of a particular country or nation. It is, however, only Jesus who is the Messiah or Christ of God. Luke chapter 9 verse 20. God's Messiah is different from all the rest. The Christ of God came to free mankind from sin, not political oppression.